Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Soul Seekers podcast, where we believe that hunting has the power to transform lives through primal adventure as we share our mission of mentorship is conservation. To learn more about everything we do, check out our show on Carbon TV or go to soulseekersnation.com. Freedom on, everybody, and stay soulful. Do you want to become a better shooter, reduce flinch, protect your ears, and just overall enjoy shooting your gun that much more? Then there's no better way to do that than by adding a suppressor to the end of your barrel. Be sure to check out Huxwrx Safety Co, as they are a leader in the suppressor world with their OSS Flow-Through Technology, virtually eliminating blowback and toxic gas that can affect weapon system performance and shooter health. To find out more about Huxwrx, go to huxwrx.com. That's huxwrx.com, and go get yourself a suppressor for your upcoming hunts. This podcast is also proudly brought to you by OnX Hunt. When I first got into hunting, I kept hearing all about public land and different access and how to find different locations to hunt. I was like, well, how are people even identifying all this stuff? Well, sure enough, I came across the number one hunting GPS app, and that is OnX Hunt. If you guys want to get better at hunting and go deeper into your scouting, OnX Hunt is the number one GPS app for that. Join the millions of hunters who trust OnX Hunt to find more game, discover new access, and hunt smarter. It was a game changer for me, and I know it's going to be a game changer for you if you've never used it. If you have used it, you know the power that it holds. Guys, I really hope you enjoy this episode. If you want to know more about OnX, go to onxmaps.com/hunt. And check out their app. Be blessed, freedom on, and stay soulful. If you're in the market for optics, I want you to go check out blackdiamondoptics.com. Black Diamond Optics offers world-class sporting and tactical optics, including thermals, all at wholesale pricing, direct to consumer. They are going to be partnering up with us for 2023, and I want to start pointing you over towards their direction. Check out Black Diamond Optics. If you've got any questions about it, shoot us a message. Love to hear from you. Be blessed, everybody. All right, guys, if you're looking for a better way to stay hydrated this coming hunting season and on all your adventures in the future, go check out hardsidehydration.com. Their swig rig is awesome, an absolute game changer when it comes to staying hydrated. I get tired of playing around with any water bladders in my bag and having to remove things to get to them and the chance of them puncturing and all that. So what Hardside did, take Nalgene's, got multiple sizes, and you're attaching your hose straight to that. Keep it on the outside of your pack, a lot easier to use. They also have a lot of other cool things. Go check out hardsidehydration.com. Use the code SOULSEEKERS10. That's all one word. Save yourself 10% at checkout. Hope you guys enjoy this podcast. Be blessed. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Soul Seekers podcast. I'm your host, Johnny Mack, and today I am joined by the one and only, the queen of the outdoor hunting world, who is now married to her king, the cowboy. We got from SkullBound, Jana Waller. Now Jana Waller Bear, I saw on your profile.
Yeah, well, I mean, with a name like Bear, you gotta add it. I mean, come on.
Heck yeah.
So I've gone through that whole process of adding Bear to the last name. I may, it's legal. It's my legal name now, Jana Waller Bear, but I'm fine with people just saying Jana Waller. But with a name like Bear, how do you go wrong?
Right. No, it's a strong name. Strong name. I love it.
Right.
All right. So today we are going to be diving into topics of fall bear hunting. Bear hunting is very near and dear to my heart. Jana, you and I, we've done seminars at the Hunt Expo. We're both published in this month's edition of Bear Hunting Magazine.
Yep.
Make sure to go check that out. There's a lot of stuff going on, and bears are so polarizing politically, and for hunters who are newer, they're like, can you hunt predators? All this. So we're going to actually talk tips and tactics today on this podcast and go over a lot of different things. We have some questions that came in through our Instagram posts previous to this. So we got some questions we're going to be answering live on air. But those of you who are tuning in on Instagram, feel free to drop your questions that you want to have answered on the show. And then this podcast is actually going to go live July 31st, Monday, July 31st, right the day before the bear opener in the state of Washington, and as fall bear seasons start opening across the West and throughout the United States, getting prepared for that. So without further ado, Jana, what is new with you? You are an what, editorial manager of Western Hunting Big Game for Bear Hunting Magazine.
I'm the new Western contributor. So the Western column, I'm the contributor for the Western column of Bear Hunting Magazine, which was really an honor when Colby reached out and asked me, because I truly think Bear Hunting Magazine is one of the best in the business. I receive, of course, all the magazines, all different conservation groups, which are fantastic too. The Turkey Call magazine, the Mule Deer Foundation magazine, all those are great. But the one I used to buy all the time is Bear Hunting Magazine. And it used to actually, still last year, was still in like Barnes and Noble, which is really nice to see, because everybody knows how much hunters are being suppressed, and so, as well as in mainstream media, bookstores, whatever. I'm not sure it's still there, but Bear Hunting Magazine is a great one. If you're new into bear hunting or you're an expert, it's still got great information. So I was excited to see your article in there this issue. And this issue I wrote called Bear Necessities, just all the different things you can do once you harvest that bear, with the meat, of course, with the hides, with the bear fat, with the claws. And so it's kind of a cool hodgepodge of what I do with my bears: pillows, vests, purses, you name it. But no, I was excited to see you in there, this issue as well.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's fun being a part of it. Fun constantly, keeping the foot on the gas pedal and putting out content for people to enjoy and love. That article actually lines up with our episode we just launched last week on Carbon TV, where Iron Will, who went from being a mentee season 1 of our show to being a mentor and getting to kill his first bear. So that is live episode 2 of season 3 of Soul Seekers. It goes by fast. How many years have you been doing SkullBound?
Oh, this is my 14th year. So I ran SkullBound TV 9 years on the Sportsman's Channel. And then during that 9th season, I was dabbling in digital, just because, the TV world's really changing. I was hearing about a bunch from my partners of, what have you thought about going digital? There's pros and cons to both a network TV show and digital. But in my 9th year, I ran I called it SkullBound Chronicles. And it would be almost a highlight season of the previous 9 years. And it did so well that the next year I jumped ship. I jumped off the network, went full digital, and I'm now exclusively on Carbon TV. So, but the beauty of it is, is that it's a link you can share with everybody. It's completely free. It's always going to be free. And the fact that unlike YouTube, which is probably the most comparable platform to Carbon TV, unlike YouTube, it's not going to ever censor us. And we all know how much we hunters are censored, especially us bear hunters or predator hunters. And so Carbon TV is owned by hunters. It's never going to be censoring, and it's never going to cost anybody anything to watch it. So I think that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, that's a powerful thing, and it's great to rally the troops and have a centralized location for everyone to go to, because I don't subscribe or pay for cable TV anymore.
Me neither.
I'm running if I want TV, traditional TV, it's through YouTube app, the YouTube TV app.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's hard to subscribe to specific channels and all that. So Carbon TV is a great thing. We got a giveaway right now. If all you listeners are on there, if you're listening to this as a podcast, you're going to miss the giveaway. But those of you who are on the Instagram Live, go sign up. You can win some Dead Nuts archery, Dead Nuts Outdoors archery targets, 2D, a whitetail deer and a broadside elk. And then also we got a elite membership, 50 state membership from onX.
Awesome.
So shout out to onX. They're one of your partners as well.
They are. Because onX is home based in Missoula, they were one of my very first partners. So I've been with them 14 years. And quite frankly, I don't know how anyone hunts without onX. And it's funny because onX Maps, obviously hunters know it's going to tell us the boundary line and who owns what property. But I can't tell you how much I used it moving to Utah. This new home that I'm in is the 32nd home I looked at. And so every single home we looked at, that I physically looked at, much less online. But you'd go online and it was really hard to tell where property lines were. And it almost, in a lot of the instances, it looked like those properties butted up against the mountain, when nope, there'd be a stretch of privately owned land between that lot and the mountain. And I found that a lot. So it's super handy to have on your phone, not just for hunting purposes like we use it for, but for real estate, finding people's houses, wondering who lives there, what neighbor is that, Yeah,
Totally.
Onyx is awesome.
I love it. Yeah, big shout out to them. They're a good company. They take care of people. Great customer service.
Yeah.
All right, so let's dive into the bear hunting. We got Western big game bear seasons are going to be opening over the next month across the West, and a lot of people, if they are tuning in, they're like, "Oh man, I'm thinking about starting to dive into hunting bear. I want to be able to hunt more animals and go into this realm." Not sure where to start. Let's start with when you were hunting the West, spot and stock style, because we can break this up. And
Yeah.
one of the questions that came had to do with hounds and all sorts of stuff. But spot and stock style, when it goes to you saying, "All right, I want to go out and I want to target bears in the fall," what's your starting point?
Um, my number one starting point is food sources because bears are gorging in the fall. They're getting prepared to go into hibernation. And so I look for food sources, mainly berries. In Montana is where I did most of my spot and stalk hunting. And you're looking for big patches of huckleberries, choke cherries, all different kinds of berries. And that's where we found the most success. It's you're so right when you say that we could categorize. I'm actually working on my next article for Bear Hunting Magazine, and I'm writing about a Prince of Wales Alaska bear hunt I did last year. And as I'm writing it, I'm thinking about how different. There's no other big game species that can be so diverse like bear hunting because of not only the weaponry we used, and I've done it all. I've shot. The only thing I haven't shot a bear with is a muzzleloader, but I've archery hunted bear, I've rifle hunted bear, I've pistol hunted bear, I've baited, I've done hounds, I've spot and stalk. So there's so many different types of bear hunting, and they all deliver such a unique experience. But when it comes to spot and stalk hunting, definitely food sources in the fall is key. And it's also so fun because you can often, like in the state of Montana, have an elk and a deer tag in your pocket and a bear tag in your pocket. And so some of the bears I've killed have been actually while I'm technically out elk hunting, but we got diverted on a bear hunt, because we saw a nice big bear. So food sources is key. They're going to be out all day long, which makes it super fun in the fall versus the spring. I feel like they're a lot lazier. It takes a while for their systems to get in place. In the spring, you're going to be looking for fresh green grass. They have to have green grass to get their systems moving. In the fall, I think you want to concentrate more on food sources like huckleberries, choke cherries, depending on your terrain.
So let me dive into this a little bit more because everyone, this was me when I started my hunting journey. It's like everyone's like, find the bear, or find the berries, find the bears. Yeah. Great. How do I find the berries? So are you using just you going out hiking, pre-scouting, or are you digital scouting through OnX, through topographical or satellite imagery? Or what are you doing to actually, like, what topography are you looking at? Are you looking at creek drainages, south sides, all that?
All of the above. All of the above, really. You're like me, and you don't just hunt bears. You hunt all these other big game species, and so you can, as you're traversing your hunting journey, you're going to discover areas that are going to be loaded with berries. And
Mm.
not only that, social media is another great thing. I just noticed all these people who are already picking so many buckets of huckleberries. It seems early to me, and I'm like, oh, huckleberries are out. Social media can be a great thing. Hop on a page. I guarantee you there's a I love huckleberries page, that can tell you not only like, okay, you don't have to give me your spot, but where are you going? But for me personally, in my journey as a bear hunter, I definitely, it's a mixture of finding food sources when I'm already out there hunting other game, or I'm a huge scrounger, I call it. I love to go morel mushroom hunting in the spring. I love to go looking for sheds. I love to look for huckleberry. We pick tons of huckleberries and freeze them because they keep in the freezer so great. So while you're doing that, just mark it on your OnX where you are. And maybe you're walking around hiking huckleberries and you're seeing fresh scat, or you're on another hunt and you're seeing scat everywhere. And you can often tell the type of scat, if it's from fall or spring. Because like for choke cherries, for example, have these big, huge seeds in them. And you're going to see that really clumpy, seedy berry scat that is, oh, okay, that's old fall scat. I'm going to remember to come back here in the fall, so
Yeah.
there's that. There's the new 3D on X is so awesome. I'll jump a little bit over to, I had a Rocky Mountain ram hunt. Was that 2 years already? My life is, I'm sorry, I've gotten married and I've moved all in the last 2 months. It's, my brain's not exactly full throttle here. But I started using the Onyx 3D for that, to really look at the terrain for my ram hunt. And on that, I thought, oh, that's a good bear slide. That's a good bear shoot, because they're going, it depending on where you're at, bears are going to be feeding on the food sources. You mentioned creeks. They got to have water too. I have routinely been walking up a creek bottom and seen so much scat. Bears, especially big jet blacks, think about how hot it is when you're out in the sun. You can just imagine how hot they get when they're out, gathering food in this late summer, fall. They're going to want cool, heavily timbered, thick brush to cool off. So creek bottoms is another great thing. But back to the Onyx, you can actually, on their new 3D version, when you're on the laptop, really see what terrain looks like. You can see what those south-facing fresh green grass shoot hillsides look like, but you can also see where maybe there would be really good shade, creeks, and berry patches as well.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love that. I always, when I'm doing my satellite scouting on Onyx, I'm looking for whatever is southwest, southeast, south side, and no heavy trees. If it looks like it's low brush, that's what I'm concentrating on. And then I like to also be within 500 to 1,000 yards of a water source.
Yep.
Whether it's a creek drainage for them using that as a travel corridor, or for them to just constantly get water, because I found that as much as like glassing this giant open hillside is great, if there's not a water source nearby, then you're not going to typically locate them there.
Yeah. And they honestly do need those patches of thick timber to where they're going to get out of the heat and into some shade. At the same time, you're not going to spot and stalk thick, heavy timber. It's really challenging. And we can get into the reasons why, people bait and use hounds and all that kind of thing. But obviously, you need some slope. It's a mixture, I feel. You need some slopes that are going to have open, where you can glass, where you can be on the opposing ridge and see in there, but they also need water, like you said, and shade as well. But yeah.
Okay, so that goes into one of our first questions that came from social media. It says, I live in dense forest and can't bait. How do I plan a spot and stalk hunt without having long visibility and only seeing about 40 to 50 yards? What's up, Soul Seekers Nation? Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I really appreciate it. As a reward, I have some discount codes for you to use if you are in the market for a brand new hunting pack. Go check out initialascent.com and Initial Ascent packs. They are made in America. Their one-piece carbon frame is an absolute game changer. We run their packs. We love them. And you can save 5% at checkout by using the code SOULSEEKERS. That's all one word. Also, for those of you who are archery hunters and you are tired of shooting at dots on a target, check out deadnutsoutdoors.com for their lifelike 2D archery targets. You can save 20% on all of their products by using the code SOULSEEKERS at checkout. Once again, the code is SOULSEEKERS, all one word. Go check out initialascent.com and Dead Nuts Outdoors. Enjoy the podcast.
It does make it super challenging. And now, mind you, I've been, a bear hunter primarily in the West, in Canada and Alaska. So I've never done the Carolinas. I've never done my home state of Wisconsin. So granted, those could be a little bit different, but it is really challenging when you do have that thick, dense forest. If all your state does offer is spot and stalk, I would recommend getting on Onyx and getting on the laptop versus the cell version and looking at the 3D and finding those open slopes. It can be challenging because otherwise, you can always pick a spot that has a food source, whether it's acorns or any kind of other timbered food sources, but it's going to be really challenging if all you can see is 50 yards. I would take a look at the surrounding area on the 3D version with OnX and see if there are some open slopes like we just talked about.
Hmm. Yeah, it's I get that question a lot, like people up from like the Michigan area,
Mhm.
the up north where it's thick and but it's not very elevated,
Yeah,
right? So you
yeah.
get some rolling hills, but you can't see. And so I haven't personally experienced that type of hunting. However, if I was to answer that question and it's like this is my scenario, I can't get to vantage points and big glassing locations. I would find the best water source that looks like it has active tracks around it, and I would turn it into more or less like a whitetail hunt, and I'd sit and wait.
Really,
Might be,
that could be your only option,
yeah,
really, or other food sources like orchards, acorns, stuff like that. But you are never, ever, ever going to fool a bear's nose. But if you're on a food source, sometimes they don't care. I have
yes,
experienced such different bear behavior. I've hunted Montana, Idaho, Utah, multiple spots in Alaska, Saskatchewan, Alberta. The bears are almost like people or dogs. They're different, they have different behaviors. I've been running baits for over a decade with Heath in Idaho. And the first year I ever did, I tried sitting on the ground like we do in Alberta and Saskatchewan. I mean, we got bears walking by us at 10 yards and they don't see that many people, so they don't care. And they're just letting their bellies override and they go right in. Versus Idaho, where there's a lot more competition where we bait. And it just was not working sitting on the ground that bait. But
yeah,
it really truly is hard to say this will work, that will. You've got to kind of try and hit or miss. And even if you're talking baiting, hound stalking, the terrain is going to be different. Winds are going to play a part. Food sources, all these. That's what makes it so fun is figuring it all out. And
yeah,
I'm
totally.
certainly no expert. I absolutely love it, but every single scenario when it comes to bear hunting is different.
Yeah, I love Robert G 608. Thanks for brother for sharing. He says
Oh,
set up and use calls in frequent bear areas. Yeah, so heavy dense areas you got to find the travel corridors, sit and wait, and feel free to blow a predator call in electronic states. In states where electronics are allowed, you could let a Fox Pro just blast
yeah.
on repeat
Oh,
over and over and over without having to play a hand call and get winded and all that stuff. That is an opportunity that you could do. Look into your local regulations,
yeah, that is such a
but yeah,
great tip. I've never done a lot of calling. Actually, I was spot and stalking, and there was this younger, probably just kicked off 2-year-old, and we did predator squeak him right in, like bum rushing us. It was a little hairy, but I've never really done bear calling. But I have friends who are really successful at it. Melissa Bachman has done it, and I believe she's done it in Canada and Alaska and maybe some other states. And success with calling in bears. My friend Wapiti Bob in Colorado, he has had a lot of success as well. So that's just something I really personally haven't gotten into. But if your state allows electronic, if that may be hand called, Fox Pro, for example, people think of Fox Pro mainly for like coyote style hunting, but on their calls they've got you know deer fawns, elk calf, screams, all different kinds of things like that. And if you know what bears eat, which is pretty much everything, they're omnivores. But man, do they love calves, fawns, lambs, moo cow calves, you name it. That sound of that crying deer fawn, I would think would really work well in that
yeah.
situation. Yeah,
Yeah,
good
they
point.
actually even have a bear cub in distress sound. I called a
Oh,
coyote in one time. I was fall bear hunting, and I was like, oh, I want to see if this works because I was sitting in heavy timbered area and used the bear cub in distress. Called in a coyote. I didn't get it on any bears, but I was like, oh, very good. So you never know what's going to come in when you're predator calling.
yeah.
All
I
right,
just
so
noticed a question from John Bear asking me how is getting married help your bear hunting? Well, I don't know yet. I've only been married a couple weeks, so I'll get back to you on that one.
well, you're becoming one with the bear.
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully, I've got a buddy to go out more with me to help me pack it out. I don't know though. John is the one who's definitely benefiting because Keith and I's hard work in Idaho, he gets to come and sit on our baits. So I think he's the one getting more out of this deal when it comes to bear hunting.
I love that. That's so awesome. Okay. Okay, so let's get into let's go a couple other things. Okay. What caliber and bullet do you shoot, and then what have you ran in the past, and then these were two different questions. So what caliber and bullet, but is the other one was opinion on minimum caliber for both rifle and handgun. So these are
those are great questions. So we'll take the pistol hunting first. I personally I've taken 3 or 4 bears with the Desert Eagle 429. Now, mind you, that is a hand cannon. That is a very big round. I work with a company called Magnum Research that builds incredible handguns. In fact, I'm having a 30-30 made right now. I love the hand cannon. I've taken lots of bears, mountain lions with it. I just want to try something new. So I'm having a 30-30 made right now. In terms of, oh, and by the way, with the 429, I was shooting the 240s. So that's a big monster bullet. In terms of minimum, I personally, now mind you can, what I would actually ask bear outfitters and guides this question, because they're going to get a lot more variety than I would know. I wouldn't personally for a handgun want anything under a 10. I have a 9mm. I wouldn't bear hunt with it. I bought Heath actually a Magnum Research 10 in their 1911, and he took 2 bears with it. Basically, he was being a bear hog last year, but anyway, he took 2 bears with it that worked out great. A lot of it is shot placement. You hear that a lot, but it's so true. Placement is going to be number one and key. With a 22, yeah, probably, but would you want to know? In terms of rifle, I shoot almost, well, with bears, I've shot bears with the 28 Nosler, the 30 Nosler, and a 300 Win Mag. I now primarily just hunt with my 28 Nosler. It is such a fantastic all-around gun for everything. I've taken elk, bears, antelope, deer. I mean, it's a little overkill for antelope, but it's still awesome. I shoot 175 grain AccuBonds out of that, long-range AccuBonds. Again, I'm no ballistics expert. I would definitely, if someone has a caliber they're interested in, if it's enough, talk to your gun shop, talk to guys at your local Sportsman's Warehouse, and just see what they have to say. I know what has worked for me in the past 14 years, but I would definitely get overpower than underpower. Bears are tough animals, and they don't bleed a lot. I mean, I have had bears. They sometimes do, but in general, they don't bleed a lot like an elk or a deer, because their fur soaks it up, and their fat plugs that hole really quickly. And so it's not as easy to track a bear as other big game animals. So I would definitely say go overkill.
Yeah, I love it. I shoot a short action. Currently, I'm running a 6.5 Creedmoor, but pushing 143 grain ELDX, and all that stemmed from when I got into hunting. I was using an AR-10 because I was a Second Amendment proponent and still am to this day. And I was like, wait a minute, I could have an AR in a 308. Yeah. So I started shooting short actions, and then switched into the 6.5 Creedmoor just because I love the idea of not getting beat up by my rifle. Yep. However, I will say at longer distances, if you're planning on shooting far with your caliber, I would say overgun yourself for bears, because they aren't bleeding very much, and getting a bear in close is tough unless you are baiting them, because they're always on the move, and sometimes the terrain that they're found in, you're not going to be able to close the distance.
Exactly. So that answer that we both gave is really dependent on what style of hunt are you doing. Are you going with hounds? Because if you're going with hounds, that's a lot like baiting, where you're going to probably be within 30 yards, 30, 40 yards up in the tree or on the ground. It does make a big difference. Spot and stalking, I would say on average, out of the 17 bears I've killed, I would say with spot and stalk, my bears are averaged between 300 and 400 yards, and then you're factoring in windage and elevation and angle. And so you definitely want to have something that can reach out and touch that bear, but also have a lot of knockdown power.
Yeah. And you got to shoot it well. So if you're not shooting it well, like make sure that you get comfortable behind your weapon. Can you invite me? We could practice. Man, if we're around, and I don't know who you are exactly, but I love when people are like, they're not afraid to ask,
I know.
right?
You got to ask for the order. I mean, come on.
I love that. I love it. Okay, so the handgun caliber, that's really interesting. So this is something that I've actually been diving into. So I've never shot a bear with a pistol. And I don't necessarily have plans on it right now. However, I do plan on going to Alaska at some point to hunt caribou and moose. What sidearm am I going to carry? You said I wouldn't do anything lower than a 10 mil, and I would agree. And I'm having a difficult time right now because 10 mils are very snappy. And as a self defense gun, it's like, okay, are you going to be able to quickly stay on target and get your shots on versus having a high capacity magazine, such as like a double stack 9mm? And I'm going down this road. I'm like, what do I do? What do I do? So that's an interesting perspective.
Yeah. What I would recommend for you in that is talk to the bear guides in Alaska. Ask them what they're carrying, because they're the ones having these encounters left and right with grizzlies, black bears, you name it. The reason I bought my first 10 was because of an Alaska bear guide who said that's what he carries on his hip. And, and bear spray on the other one. You don't know what that situation is going to give you. But I always say, ask the guys and gals that are out there nonstop. And those often are the outfitters or the guides in Grizz country. What do they carry? What do they feel comfortable with? What are the situations been like for them when they're in close proximity?
Yeah. That's a great segue into one of the questions that popped up on social media. It says scariest grizzly encounter. I have yet to encounter a grizzly, so I can't answer that. Jana, do you have any experience on that?
I don't. I have a lot of experience of having grizzlies in encounters, nothing close. So I used to do a ton of elk hunting up in the Rocky Mountain Front Range, kind of near Augusta in Montana, and that is Grizz Central. In fact, in one particular season, I believe it was 2017. Yeah, because when I arrowed my bull. So we filmed in a 10-day hunt 11 different grizzly bears on film. I can't even remember how many we saw. That is how many we got on film. And some were, a mile and a half away that you're looking through the vortex spotter at, and some were crossing a hillside at like 70 yards. I've never had a close encounter. I have had one of the coolest days ever right outside Missoula, Montana. In fact, I think the address would still have been Missoula, Montana. We were black bear hunting with my buddy Mountain Goat Paulie, and we came across a grizz. He walked out about 400 yards up the hill. We were glassing, looking for black bears, and a grizz walked out, and we're like, oh my God, that's a grizz. And it's an area that they claim there's no grizz or very few grizz. I believe now in the western part of Montana, you can run into a grizz at any time. And then out walked another one, and we literally filmed a mating pair of grizzlies for 7 hours. I mean, not nonstop, but 7 hours of they're together, they're not, they're together, they're not. It was fascinating. In fact, you can catch that highlight in the season 1 of SkullBound Chronicles on Carbon TV because it's so fascinating.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. As a thank you, I got more discount codes for all of you. If you are in the market for anything in regards to calls, whether it's elk calls, turkey calls, deer or predator calls, you can save 15% on all Rocky Mountain hunting calls by using the code SOULSEEKERS. That's all one word. And if you're in the market for hard side hydration, a better way to hydrate, go check out hardsidehydration.com. Use the code SOULSEEKERS10 to save 10%. And we also have a discount at Graxaw.com. Graxaw is the leader in ultralight game bags and other backcountry gear. Light, fast, and efficient is their motto. Use the code SOULSEEKERS, all one word, to save 10% at checkout.
It was amazing to watch. I've never had a scary encounter except I arrowed a bull in that area that I talked about near the Rocky Mountain Front, and I was not sure where my arrow hit. I actually got a second arrow in that bull. I was pretty positive it was dead. It was right before dark. I did not want to bump that bull, but I can tell you the next morning going in after what I was assuming was a dead bull was terrifying me. That because it was the same week that we had seen 11 different bears. And so I was for sure there was going
Wow.
to be a grizz. So, my cameraman's got his camera, Glock 10 out. I've got my bow in my hand and my bear spray, and we're talking really loud and, kind of, which is normally not what you would do as in recovering an animal. And thank God there wasn't one on it. But that was probably the scariest moment I had, because I knew that there was blood on the ground. I knew my arrows hit that bull twice. Luckily, that bull was only like 75 yards into the Quakies. But that was really scary for me. I don't know if you follow Tana Sue and her husband in Alaska, but they have grizz encounters all the time. And I'm just, grizz and sharks are two things that my brain doesn't, I'm even though I feel like I'm very mountain worthy, I'm an outdoors woman, I still, grizzlies and sharks freak me out.
You're not doing it.
Well,
I
honestly,
love it.
when you like Todd, do you know who Todd Orr is? Todd Orr
Yeah.
is, he's a knife maker out of Montana, really great guy. He's the one that was twice attacked, and Todd is like a badass. He's killed like 30 bulls with a handgun. The guy knows his stuff. And if Todd Orr can get attacked, anybody can, because he's very bear aware. He knows grizzlies, he knows terrain, and he got jumped so fast by a sow with cubs that he actually got to his spray. It's the only time I've ever heard of a grizzly getting a full blown blast to the face and still getting attacked. But he did say in an interview that he did with Jason Matzinger that he believes it slowed her down, but she still bit him like 30 times on his back. Like, he's the guy, if you go YouTube Todd Orr grizzly attack, he's walking
Sitting
out
there with his bloody head.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
walking out. There's blood dripping down his elbows, all cut up, and he basically was just filming for his buddies. Like, what kind of day have you had today? And they ended up closing the trail. But he is so lucky. But we can learn a lot from that. But the one thing that I learned from it is, if it can happen to him, it can happen to anybody. And it's really important to be as protected as you can. I carry a sidearm bear spray when I'm hunting in any way, shape, or form in grizz country.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
That's good. That's awesome. I want to go back to the spot and stock here for a second, because I feel like we still have some stuff left on the table there that people are hopping on this like, you're Jana Waller. You are like come on now. You're like, get out of here. I'm just a person. It's really fun to watch people's content and then see them and hear from them. So, growing up through this hunting culture and what I see, are you just going back to the same spot year after year? Or are you constantly searching for new locations? Or is it like, this is my bear spot and I've identified it as my good location and we'll just go hunt it again?
Yeah. Again, speaking of Montana, I've probably got 6 or 7 awesome spots that we can go to every day, that you can get to every day. Most of them you can drive up to either a gated logging road or the bottom of a hill, climb up and start. But I definitely don't have 1 or 2. I would say 6 or 7 awesome spots that I've either killed bears in, seen bears in, seen tons of scat, tons of sign. I think it's really important, if you want to be successful year after year, is to have a wide variety. Because a lot of times you might get there, maybe there's somebody else. If there is ever somebody else parked at the gate or parked in our spot, I don't go in there, just out of etiquette and being polite. Like, maybe they're just, looking for huckleberries. I don't know, but I'm not going to go into an area where there's someone. So I've got to have backup. But I also love to find new spots. It's like the last time Mountain Goat Polly and Dee came up to Montana and we all hunted together, we actually went into a brand new canyon I'd never been in before. And Polly got his bear that day. We were able to take the Baku bikes up in, which is so awesome. Mind you, check your state's regulations. Are e-bikes allowed? They are some aren't, some areas yes, some areas no. But where they're allowed, they're amazing. And we were able to take the bikes 4 or 5 miles and then start hunting. So you're already way back in. And we'd never been in there before. We found it because we were way on another mountain ridge and glassed up this bear. And it was a giant that Polly and I had seen 2 other years, and we're pretty sure it was the same bear on the same little finger that he was always coming out on. So we're like, how do we get to that? It probably looked like 3-4 miles away from where we were. How do we get there? So we went home that night, looked at the onX, figured out, oh, there is a way to get up there with the bikes for a little bit and then hike over. And that's what we did.
Yeah.
We did not find that particular bear, but we found the bear that Polly shot and killed. And so I think it's important to always, and for me, it's great when I have friends like Polly and Dee who are willing to go with, because bear hunting's a lot of hard work. I have gone in and I've never gotten one on my own in terms of spot and stalk in Montana, because there's a lot to get it out. And I hunt in Grizz territory, so it's really nice to have other friends there along with you. But the
Right.
onX maps, it will allow you to find new spots like nothing. And I think it's important to have some good spots, but always find some new ones as well. And it's so fun looking at, new terrain.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's a question that I get asked quite a bit. Do you prefer to hunt from above down or down up? And then specifically for bears, what do you find yourself getting into more?
Honestly, a mixture. I don't go in with the particular, oh, I'm going to look up or I'm going to look down. What you do go in is thinking about thermals. As warm air rises, so in the morning, you're going to have those thermals coming up. So it is best to be up on top, maybe looking down the hillsides with the wind in your face. And of course, vice versa in the evening. But I'd be lying if I said I think of thermals, but that's about it. I'd always rather shoot down than up. I have a really nice scope bite that people could see from one time. Be careful when you shoot way high up. You snuggle up to that gun too close, and that can happen. But no, if I'm looking at in my mind's eye of all the bears that I've shot, I would say almost all of them I tend to be on walking on the hillside or the log, because, for example, my favorite spots, almost all of them are where you're hiking in and then you're on a logging road and you're kind of on top, looking down or looking right across. That just happens to be where I hunt. I think the most important thing though is wind. I mean, I can't tell you how many times, and the winds are going to get you. They're going to swirl, but in general, you think of the thermals with the hot air rising. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen a bear 300 yards away and all of a sudden they pick up their nose because it's starting to get swirly and they're out of there. Like their noses are incredible. I've read everything from 200 times stronger than a human to 500 times strong. I mean, how do they know exactly? But their noses are incrable. And their
Like, how do they
too.
qualify that?
Yeah.
Oh man. Oh, I love that. One of the questions, going into the whole scent thing, right? So Western hunting with spot and stalk, you're talking about, you prefer to hunt here and down. You don't want to take a scope to the face. Never a fun thing. Water source, food sources, all that. Someone said, why do hunters use dogs to hunt? And theirs was specific to North Carolina. Why do hunters use dogs to hunt in North Carolina? But why do hunters use dogs to hunt black bears in general?
Well, it's definitely a very controversial topic. And I think it's a topic people, even hunters, not just non-hunters, love to jump on board and say, oh, that's not fair chase. Or, oh, that's so easy. Or that's not legitimate hunting. And I know that anytime I see a comment like that, they've never been on a hound hunt, because I have multiple times for bears and mountain lions, and it is so much work. I have my friend TJ, who's a houndsman. In fact, you can go on to, I don't remember what season it was.
Shout out to TJ. He's a savage. Awesome
He
guy.
is. He's an incredible houndsman. His dogs are great. He's chill. He's even keeled. He works his dogs all year round. He hunts mountain lions and bears with dogs. He's just a fantastic guy, and he's got amazing dogs. Back to your question, why do they? First of all, I feel it's a very ethical hunt. If you know anything about the hounds, it's not easy. It takes a lot of training, and you're taking care of your dogs all year. And you may get, a hound season of a few weeks. a lot of it helps. It's kind of like baiting bears. There are people who think baiting bears is unethical. I completely disagree. It is a great way to manage our bear populations, to be able to get up close and personal to say, is that a sow? Is that a boar? Same thing with hounds. You're going to be able to target a big boar, which is what we're all after. And oftentimes in terrain where that's the only option that you've got. And trust me, I come from Montana that just a couple of years ago started allowing certain areas to have hound hunting. And my first gut reaction was like, oh God, I hope they don't run where I hunt, because you don't want to be, you know what I mean? But that's so selfish, because number one, it's a win. We hunters need wins. There are so many powers at play trying to take away every single style, weapon, species of hunt away from hunters. It's a win for hunters, and it's an addition. It's an additional type of hunting that you can enjoy. I think it's ethical. I think that if done right, it's successful. It's a lot of hard work. I mean, you don't dump dogs and they don't tree the bear right off the road. You know, I mean, I suppose that could happen, but that's not what happens. You basically, the dogs, strike, you let them loose, and you don't know how far you're going into the mountains. You've got to be in good physical shape. On the hunt I did with TJ that you can watch on Carbon, I hiked just as hard on that hunt as any spot and stalk hunt I'd ever been on.
Right.
A lot of it is very political. Montana, New Mexico, and Arizona, I believe, are three states that in the last few years has added hound hunts for bears to the menu. And then, of course, there's other states like, I think, Virginia, West Virginia, Maine, Wisconsin, Idaho, Utah, that allow hound hunting. It's a very political issue. It's one the antis use all the time to try to get it shut down. But if you've never been on a hound hunt, I would recommend not critiquing it, because you probably don't know what you're talking about.
I love that.
But there are some states that allow it and some don't. And I really don't have an answer as to why, except that it's often really political, like any of the other wildlife management topics.
Yeah, I agree. I love that you said if you have never experienced it, then you have no room in talking about it. On this podcast, we always share that everyone has opinions, very few people have perspectives. And in order to have a perspective, you need to go through an experience, because experiences give you that true perspective. Right? Like, I believe it. Yeah. No, I know it. There's a difference between belief and knowing something.
Yeah.
And that is very powerful.
I actually come from a place, I remember thinking in my 20s, I don't think I'd ever bear hunt. Now, mind you, I grew up bird hunting with my dad. I took hunter safety in 1983. I mean, you can do the math. But I grew up bird hunting, and then I picked up a bow when I was a freshman in college, and I've been, hunting big game with a bow for over 30 years. I remember literally living in Wisconsin and thinking, I don't really see why people get into bear hunting and what it's all about. Well, then I moved to Montana, and I hunt black bears more than any other big game species. I love all styles, all weaponry, they're all so different. From the Yukon Flats of Alaska with Joe Latarte, where we're hunting black bears and grizzlies with a pistol at the same time, to Prince of Wales, where whether you're hunting Prince of Wales, Alaska in the spring or in the fall is a completely different hunt, because in the spring, you're taking the skiffs out and you're in the water looking for black bears that are, walking the coastline and eating clams and dead fish. And then in the fall, they're on the rivers. They're up on the rivers, trying to get salmon for the salmon runs. Completely different style of adventure. And, but I remember coming from that place of just really not having any self-knowledge or education, and completely doing a 180 and now being basically addicted.
I love you have perspective.
Mm-hmm.
My perspective comes from this. When I got into hunting, I was a high school football coach planning on being a head coach, and the fall is dedicated to football. Like, how are you going to get better at being a hunter if you don't have the time to dedicate to it? And so the only season of big game that was open prior to football starting was black bear.
Yeah,
and I was like, bear. I don't know. I've never hunted bears. I was scared of bears in the woods. Like, it challenged my courage. It challenged who I am as a man. And I was like, well, I guess I'm a bear hunter. Never had bear meat. Never tried like anything.
I
But
love that.
that was the thing. Like being a hunter was more important for me and then pursuing that animal. And I think having that as the foundation of me as a hunter is like, oh my gosh, what a phenomenal thing. But what I've learned is like the old 90s terms, cross training, right? You ever remember the old like,
Yeah.
hey, I got some cross trainers, like I can not only go forward, I can go side to side. Like
Yeah.
I'm ready to So, anyways, I use bear hunting as a cross training exercise. Every time you mentioned it earlier, every time I'm out looking for bears specifically, I'm also taking note of where are deer, where are elk, where are turkeys, any other animal. And I actually, in season 1 of Soul Seekers on Carbon, I went into my spring bear location, and because I ran into some whitetails, I was like, this would be a really great whitetail hunt late in November. Went in there and killed a beautiful buck in the snow
That's cool.
because of
Yeah.
that cross training perspective. Like, okay, I think this is a good one to remember. So,
I think there's a lot
I,
of, yeah, and there's a lot of misconception out there about what we do with bears. People think it's a trophy hunt or they think it's a sport hunt, and it is so not. I love bear meat, and thanks to my buddies Paulie and Dee, they taught me how to can. Um, I used to just honestly, I'm so busy going on hunts left and right. A lot of times we would debone. Obviously, you're deboning the bear, packing it out most of the time, depending on.
I was going to say, obviously, I
What,
have actually never boned out a bear in the field before
oh,
packing it out. So,
how many guys are with you? Yeah, it depends on how many guys you have that can load their packs. I've deboned
right.
almost all of the bears that spot and stalk bears that I've killed. But then, but if we're able to get them out in the quarters, I just drop the quarters off at my local meat processor in Lolo Meat Locker, and they smoke them, and it is delicious. And it's fully cooked. You don't have to worry about trichinosis and other icky parasites and such. Fully cooked. You literally just put your oven on 200, and for a couple hours, let it come to a nice warm temperature, slice it, and it's like sliced ham. It is so delicious. And there's so many other things that you can do with the meat as well. Crock pot roasts, steaks on the grill. You just have to make sure that you cook it.
Totally. Hit that, what, 170 degrees is what it is? 160?
That's what. Trust me, I
I think
overdo it. My steaks are a bit crazy.
Same. Okay, don't go too fast. Hit that up again. So your meat is already boned out. So
For
you have
a
like
lot of them, yeah.
a rear ham,
Yeah.
like your round ham off that back.
Yeah.
You're taking that and saying, "Here, smoke this whole thing."
Yeah.
And
Oh
then
yeah. Oh yeah, on the bone too. They'll do it on the bone as well. And like most, I believe this to be true. Most meat processors, and I've had probably 2 or 3 different ones I've used for smoking. Most of them do them in batches. So they'll say, okay, we're probably not going to run a batch for a week or two. But then they'll call you up, and all 4 quarters there are nicely smoked. They're frozen. They keep great in the freezer. And then you don't want to heat it up, like you don't want to throw it in a 400-degree oven because it'll cook too fast. It's already fully cooked. The smoking process cooks it, but you just want to slowly warm it so it doesn't get dried out. And then I've literally we put it in baggies and go on the mountain hunting, and I've literally been bear hunting while I'm eating smoked bear.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So that's something I just learned. I've never heard anyone talk about that before, but
Oh, yeah.
that sounds phenomenal.
Yeah, just ask
Do you
your
do
local meat processor if they do smoke bear. A lot of times they'll smoke a lot of other things as well. But yeah, the 3 that I used when I asked, oh yeah, they smoke bear.
Okay, I love that. What are some of the other things that you do? Canning bear meat. That first off, canned meat is still a mental trip for me. Like I understand it, I support it, but eating meat out of a jar, I have to overcome. Now I've been a picky eater, so
Oh,
like take that for a grain of salt. Like maybe I'm a weirdo when it comes to that. Talk about canned meat, and then talk about what else you're doing with your bears.
okay. Well, Paulie and Dee are the experts on this. They are the ones who showed me, and there's an episode on Carbon TV. I think it's season 3, where it's just called Canning Bear Meat, walks you through the processes, because it is kind of a process. You definitely want to set aside an afternoon where you're cutting up your vegetables, you've chunked up your bear meat, you've got the process down with the canning, and there's definitely tolerances when you can make sure you're canning safely. But then, my gosh, I don't even know what the shelf life of it is. It's probably food storage shelf life, like decades. But it's delicious. And I'm telling you what, Paulie and Dee canned elk, deer, bear. They can a lot, everything. I would love to do a taste test, because I don't think because they've given me deer and elk that they've canned. I don't think I could tell the difference between bear, deer, and elk, because when it's canned, it soaks up all the spices that you put in, the salt, the pepper, the vegetables, the seasoning. It soaks all that in. It is so delicious. And a lot of times I'll just grab a jar, crack it, you heat up some cauliflower rice, dump it over, and like literally you have a meal in 3 minutes. It's so delicious. And then a lot of my friends are into rendering bear fat. Bear fat used to be a currency. Cool to think about. Back in the pioneer days, it was a currency that people would trade for other products. I recently, when I lived in Montana, Laura's friend came to visit and gave me a balm that she made from rendered bear fat that was for your hands, your skin, your lips. It's great. Bear balm can be used for wounds. Another friend of mine, Roger in Missoula, takes rendered bear fat and he makes cookies, candles. I mean, there's so many different things you can do with rendered bear fat. And it's really easy to store. It freezes super great as well. Now, I've taken bear's hides and done, crazy things with them, from pillows. I have clothing. I have purses. I mean, after a while, you can only have so many bear rugs. I mean,
right.
So you got to kind of get creative. And I'm certainly not slowing down. So I know that there's going to be more bear rugs or bear hides coming into the house. And so you just got to get kind of creative. But Midnight Leather Goods is my gal, Jessica Todd. She has made the coolest things out of bear hides for me. So you'll have to get Bear Hunting Magazine to see some ideas.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, so I'm going to pull up a little memory I have specifically of you, and it ties into this perfectly. There's an old Willie Nelson, Waylon Jennings song, Lukenbach, Texas. Are you familiar with that?
Sorry, I'm embarrassed to
say
no.
Okay, Jana, I'm going to have to send it to you after this.
Okay.
Let's go to Lukenbach, Texas, Waylon, Willie.
Oh, yeah, duh. Okay, yeah.
Oh, yeah. The successful life we're living.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Lukenbach, Texas is a few hours south of me here in the great Lone Star State. And when I went there and took my family there for the first time once we moved to Texas, there was a vendor selling a bunch of different random things. And there was other people there who I could tell were not hunters. And so they were selling like claws or bones or like just things.
Yeah.
And they had this glass case of long bones, and they were like, what are those? And I giggled to myself. I love it. Jana walks away because she knows exactly. So when you got on social media and you were sitting in your car and you had your coffee and you're stirring it around, what do you got there?
These, believe it or not, I don't know, can you say the P word? These are bear.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Bear penis bones. Are they cool? I mean, these are just the ones that happen to be sitting in a little mug over there. But I just asked John the other day, Backham. I can't remember the name. It's more fun to say bear penis. So anyway,
the back and bone or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, baculum, sorry, John. So bears have them, raccoons have them, coyotes have them. Not a whole lot of mammals have an actual bone, but bears do. And so it's kind of fun to keep it. And I did it. You're referring to, I was sitting there with my coffee in my truck and I was stirring it just to be funny. But I'm really glad that left a lasting impression.
I've always remembered that. I had to look it up. Baculum. The
Baculum.
baculum is a bone in the penis of many placental mammals. So, I mean, hate to say it, like now we understand where the term boner comes from. Like,
Exactly.
I don't know.
It's
Can I
fascinating though.
share
But
that?
honestly, like as funny as it is to talk about it, like it's so fascinating. And when like hunters get to experience the coolest stuff. I remember my dad joking about Jana doesn't field dress her animals, she autopsies them. Because where else? Like who else gets to do this? You're like, wow, what their lungs look like. And then, you can see Steve Ella taking it to a next level and like cooking with the webbing around the stomach and all this cool stuff. But I've always been, eyeballs. Eyeballs are amazing. Like if you've never seen, I don't care if it's a bear eyeball, a deer eyeball, if you've never seen an eyeball out of the socket, it's fascinating. And I just feel like we hunters get to experience the coolest stuff, when we're field dressing. And this is right up there. You didn't expect me to go get some, did you?
No, but I'm so glad you did. I'm so glad you did. It's a powerful thing that, like you said, I remember eighth grade biology class.
Yeah.
We were dissecting
Wrong.
lamb's
Oh.
eyes.
Yeah.
And I thought the eyeball was just like this marble that sits in the ocular socket. And then I was like, wait, what's all this long stuff behind it? I was blown away. But like you said, the things that we get to experience and learn when we're out in the field and when we're hunting animals, just it lasts with you for a lifetime. That's why I'm so big on the whole mentorship thing, getting more people involved, because it's such a powerful tool.
It really is. And today's day and age where we are living in an era that, like, I don't know about you, but I have never looked at my food as medicine and supplements as much as I have since COVID. Number one, hunters weren't freaked out when the grocery store shelves were empty because typically we've got freezers full of stuff. Number two, nowadays they're really linking a lot of pesticides, herbicides, glyphosate to disorders and inflammation in the human body because of all the food and the processed packaged food that we Americans eat. And so I think coupled with the COVID issue of grocery stores being empty and what's going on now with the food that is out there and being delivered to us as healthy, to look at where their food comes from. Of course, the big organic movement has been here forever, but even stronger now than ever before. And it makes me super proud to be a hunter and know that, where my food is coming from, who is processing it and touching it, and the birds we eat. And like back to bear hunting, there's so much meat on a bear. And there's other useful things like we talked about, the bear fat, the hide, the claws, the skulls, of course, skull addict. But I think that now more than ever before, people are non-hunters or even some antis are getting used to the idea of sustainable living through hunting.
Yeah, 100%. So up in the state of Washington, where I'm from, ironically, the doctor who is created the carnivore diet and talks about it, Dr. Sean Baker.
Yeah.
He trained at the jiu-jitsu gym that I went to and that my kids went to.
Oh.
And I want to get him on the podcast because there is a lot of, like you said, people aren't relying on pharmaceuticals as much anymore. And they're starting to dive into, well, pharmaceuticals stem from the natural world anyways. So like, what is the natural stuff that we can get?
Yep.
And a lot of I haven't done the carnivore diet. I believe I'm going to very soon. But one of those things is like realizing that there's so much stuff through the animals that we can get that's healthy.
Yep.
Isn't it bear gallbladder is supposed to be like an aphrodisiac or something like that, like sold on the black market or something?
I do remember actually seeing a show. I can't remember what show it was on, like a history discovery type show, where they were showing these bear poachers in California, and it was all because of the bladders of the bears. But I don't really know much about that. I've never used a bear bladder, but
I did a Google search real quick. The bear
Yeah.
bladder black market. There's an article from Outdoor Life, but the very first one says that in Korea it can go up to $15,000 in value.
No
Now I
kidding.
don't know. I don't know when this article came out. Like, is it
Yeah.
accounting for inflation or what's going on here? But it's very very interesting. There's a lot of stuff out there that don't just throw your animal away. Don't just take out your back straps, your tenderloins, and maybe your rear hams. Like,
Maybe there's some other
re-
benefits.
yes,
Yeah.
research what you're getting into.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that because there's some states where you don't even have to take the bear meat out, which I think is just pretty sad. There's a lot of delicious meat, like we said, clean. When you are done taking care of a bear meat, it's just beautiful red solid meat, steak meat that it doesn't have any smell. Now, mind you, some people may think because bears have such a distinct smell to them, when you get up on your
Mhm.
bear that you've taken, trust me, it's like wet dog times 20. They have this distinct bear smell. And then when you're processing it, they're very greasy because of the fat. But if you take care of your bear right away and it's not out in a bunch of heat, the meat's delicious. And I would really encourage anyone who's into bear hunting to not leave the meat behind. If you're traveling for a hunt, ask the outfitter or guide or locals. Maybe you can't take it back. Maybe you flew in, whatever it be. Ask the locals if they would like it, because I've never yet found someone who wasn't really excited about taking on bear meat.
Yeah, yeah. What do you've used Outfitter for hound hunting for bears?
Well, I use TJ. Yep.
TJ.
Yep.
Um, there was somebody. I'm going to give him a shout out because I appreciate the advocacy. Got to plan a hunt with outlaw outfitters.
Oh yeah, I saw
I've
that
never.
comment. Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
never gone through an outfitter for a bear hunt. However, if you really want to get on a bear, I use outfitters as a way to, um, you know, as a college course. You're paying for it, so you take as much knowledge out of that as you can.
Exactly. Exactly. I learned how and when all the intricacies of baiting through first going up into Saskatchewan and Alberta and working with these outfitters. My good buddy Jim Brennan, he's a guy. He was a guide. Now he's pretty much a whitetail guide in Kansas. But he used to run the camp I used to go to in Saskatchewan. And really, I did a bunch of baiting with him, and that's where you learn what to bait with, when to bait, what kind of sprays, oils to use, all that kind of. But really, you can learn so much. Go on an outfitter guided hunt, learn what you can, and then maybe take that to a state where you can DIY it.
Hmm. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
So one of the questions with bear hides, how do you keep the bear hide good? So you're skinning it off the animal in the field,
Yep.
skin to skin, hair to hair. Like, what are you doing to make sure that hide is protected so that you can get it out to the
Yeah.
taxidermist?
You really want to get it off, obviously, right away. You don't want to, sometimes depending on what style of hunting you're doing, if you don't want to leave them overnight. You want to get that hide off fully. You don't have to completely flesh it in the field, but you want to get it off, roll it up, and then I get them in the freezer ASAP. You also don't, yeah, I would prefer game bags over bag, John. John, if you're listening, bag. He makes fun of the way I say bag from Wisconsin. But I would recommend game bags that breathe versus like a black trash bag. Um,
Hmm.
Unfortunately, when you put them in trash bag, they don't breathe, and the hair can slip, and then the hide's not going to be good when you take it to the tanner. But I use game bags, put them in my pack. It helps keep the pack clean a little bit too. Get it in the freezer as soon as you can, and then I try to drop it off at the tannery or the taxidermist ASAP. And you don't have to if it's frozen, obviously, but I'm always needing room in my freezers for other things, so they can't stay in there that long. But yeah, get it off. The heat, unfortunately, is not our friend when taking care of meat and hides. Try to use breathable game bags and then get it in the freezer or to your taxidermist ASAP.
Yeah, love that. Love that. So we're pushing a little over an hour, and I want to make sure that for the sake of all our listeners, that they're getting some very very good points. By the way, you're gold. Everything you're just like you nail things.
Uh,
Um, One of the things, and Jana, if I can, when you and I did our seminar together about Bear Hunting 101,
yeah.
I threw in a slide and I talked about something that you were not familiar with, and you ended up telling me that John might have taken that as like, oh, that's kind of a good thought. Talking about using the hikers trail reports.
Oh
Do
yeah,
you
yeah,
remember
yeah,
that?
yeah, yeah.
Yes. So all you people who wanted to get on bears, be a student of the game and use other people's research to help further yours. So I am a huge fan of, in the state of Washington, there's a Washington Trails Association website. There's like different, all sorts of trails for your state specific. Go on there and let hikers do the research for you. Oh, it was a beautiful day. I could see the sky, the birds were out, the berries were ripe, and oh, I saw some deer, or I saw a bear, or whatever it is, and use these as an opportunity to further your knowledge. Like, oh, okay. And then a lot of them, you can go back to the history of trail reports, right? So when did they go? Oh, it was August 5th, August 17th, September 2nd. And you can do that year after year and see what type of reports are showing up, and so you can
That's
start to plan
that's a
your hunt that
great
much
tip.
more.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great tip. Like I said, that I'm sure there's a Huckleberry page out there. That same concept, but yeah, let the hikers do the glass and spotting for you. That's great.
I love it. So do you have a bear hunt coming up soon?
I have a bear tag still for Montana. I actually still have an Idaho one too. I got pretty selective this year and was targeting Fatty, this bear that we called Fatty. He's a giant in Idaho, and passed on a ton of bears. That's actually probably going to be my next episode out next month on SkullBound Chronicles. It's a tagless bear show where I don't notch my tag, but we filmed so many cool things. Bears fighting at the bait, a fisher coming in, just really cool scenarios when it comes to running your bear baits, and how really people think because you run a bait, it's easy. And it never is. You never know what to expect. You can definitely pattern and find great success, but it's going to be a really interesting episode. So I do still have an Idaho tag. I don't think I'm going to bait this fall. I have a Montana elk, deer, and bear tag in my pocket. So I'm probably going to get up there and do a bit of deer hunting and bear hunting at the same time. And I also already know that so Prince of Wales does it a little differently. I already drew next year, spring, Prince of Wales. So that's my next for sure bear hunt, is John and I are going to go back to Prince of Wales and do this time a springtime bear hunt on the island.
I love it. I was going to ask you, has Alaska just bitten you? And it's like, I got to go back.
It's amazing. I've been really blessed to hunt all various parts of Alaska. I've done a hunt with Ben and Taylor Woolers in Petersburg. I did Yukon Flats fly-in where they drop you off, you camp out, and you hunt. And there's grizz there too. You hunt grizzlies or black bear with pistols with Joe Latart. But Prince of Wales, we did it last year for the first time. It was amazing. That's an episode on Chronicles you can go watch. The fishing's incredible. And so when you can fish and bear hunt sort of at the same time, it's awesome. Yeah, Alaska is amazing.
I love it. I love it. Man, Janet, you're incredible. I'm really rooting for you. I'm so glad that you are not only a bear hunter, but you're officially a bear as well. It's big time. Shout out to John. You're an awesome one, and you scooped up a winner.
Thank you. I think so too.
How is being on Carbon so far for you?
It's been great. I love it so much because, like we talked about in the very beginning, it's free for everybody, which is so nice. Sportsman's Channel for 9 years, they were great to me. They were great to work with. I love Monty and Jake. It was just a little frustrating if someone missed your show. If they don't catch it on a rerun, they're really not going to catch it. Whereas on Carbon is like YouTube. You can go on anytime, watch it as many times as you want, share it as many times as you want. And so that's been just fantastic. The numbers are incredible. It's been great going digital. And when I was trying to decide what to do, I did think about YouTube. And I'm so glad, for me personally, I didn't go that route because of the cancel culture that we live in right now, where Carbon's not going to do that. And a lot of people have asked me, well, I like to watch on my big TV. Well, you can totally put Carbon TV on your big TV. All you got to do is buy a $30 Roku stick and put it on the menu. You go into, in fact, I taught a guy last night how to go into settings, hit add channel, you type in Carbon TV, select it, and boom, there it is next to your Netflix, Amazon, Carbon TV. You can do that with Roku, Fire Stick. Now all newer Samsung TVs have Carbon TV on them, as well as Apple TVs and soon to be Vizio. And so, yeah, TV world is constantly changing, and Carbon TV just isn't the app on your phone. You can watch it on your big TV too.
Yeah, I'll tell you this. So my kids are getting to the age where, they'll wake up and turn the TV on and they like to watch, their morning cartoons. However, I've come out a couple different times and caught them on Carbon TV watching hunting shows, Soul Seekers, SkullBound. I'm like, yes, let's go. Let's do it.
It's so good. I'm telling you, it is so good to have kids, be inspired and motivated by stuff that's real. I feel like we live in such a fake world with social media is fake. There's just so many fake things, and really hunting, obviously it's been around since the beginning of man, but it's just so good for kids to see that hunters are animal lovers, and that we're the ones taking care of the herds and the habitat, and that it's okay to be an animal lover and a hunter. Like, in fact, almost all of us are, It's so good for kids when there's so much garbage that they can be inundated with. Platforms like Carbon TV is nothing but a good thing.
Yeah, totally. So if your kids aren't watching Carbon, if you're going to put them in front of a screen, have them go check that out.
Exactly.
Right. What's anything else on the future, or any parting thoughts that you want to wrap this up with?
No, but I just see a comment. It's so cute. And I know this bird. My daughters beaded their skulls this year. Yeah, it's so cute. I love that so much because it's so fun. Not only are the kids getting into hunting, and then they're, obviously their moms or dads are teaching them how to take the meat back, and what it's so fun to have venison burgers or whatever. But then to have these kids bead their skulls, to me, is just taking it to the next level. And then they've got artwork on their wall, tangible memories. So I get a shout out to them. That's so cute. I love it when people share that with me.
I love it. Well, for those of you who are on Instagram Live, we're not going to go just yet, but those of you who are on the podcast, thank you so much for tuning in this episode of Soul Seekers. For Jana Waller, Johnny Mack, remember that hunting has the power to transform lives through primal adventure, and that you can never outgive good, as mentorship is conservation. Be blessed, everyone. Good luck this coming hunting season. Let us know. Tag us in your pictures and posts if you go out, get your bears, and just really stay after it. Freedom on, everybody, and as always, stay soulful. If you enjoyed today's podcast and want to support the show, you can always like, share, subscribe, and leave a rating, as it helps us share our mission of mentorship is conservation. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of Soul Seekers Nation as we transform lives through primal adventure. If you want to get more connected with the podcast, check out the Soul Seekers Nation Facebook group, as I look forward to connecting with you on the next episode. So stay tuned and stay soulful.